Oh, so hi everyone, my name's Sara. I am the third girl speaker in a row. So next will be all guys, so don't leave now. Okay, cool, thank you. I also want to point out that Kasia has to drink 20 shots apparently. So please stick around for the party tomorrow, because that shit's gonna be lit. Okay, so geek you all the things. This is my talk, managing local stay with Apollo. And I get very excited about Apollo. First of all, I do not work for Apollo. I am not nearly as cool. And I also want to point out three things. I have CSS and GeekUL stickers. If no one knows what this is true Portuguese talent right there. So there's this guy called Bernardo, and he made a library which allows you to write CSS with GraphQL. And this explains my country in general. By the way, I'm from Portugal. We're next to Poland on the list of countries. I know, because I always have to click P and then down. I also have these adorable unicorn stickers and Babel stickers, so if you want one of those, just holler at me. Please don't come all at once, because that's not good. Okay, cool. So my name is Sara, like I said. I'm a front-end developer at YLD. We are a consultancy based out of London and Portugal. If you want one of those things, just, I don't know. I'm really into horrible movies like Sharknado and stuff. I really like that. That shit gives me life. I don't know why. If you've never watched Troll 2, you need to watch it. It's an experience. I really like football, and right now I mostly live out of Airbnbs and hotels since I've been like touring the Europes. Technically, when I don't live in an Airbnb, I live in the middle of nowhere in Portugal. Wait, I have a clicker, I think. Yeah. So this is the Apollo Slack, which has 6,922 people, and this is my hometown, which has 5,790. And this was in 2011. A bunch of people immigrated ever since. You know your town is small when the last population on Wikipedia is from 2011, by the way. That was like 7 years ago. Okay, so I'm gonna alert on something. I don't really like Redux. Like, Dan's great. There's not a pinch of bad things in that man. If you try to annoy him, you can't. He's like an incredibly patient human being, which is a weird thing coming from like a Latin person. But I really, I started using Redux, and I was fine with it until I realized that I was like changing 4 objects, just changing 4 files just to change an object. And I got real pissed. And that was like my turning point, and then I started using MobX, and now I'm going, yay, Michelle, yeah, he's here, god damn it. And then I started using MobX, and now I'm really into Apollo, because most of the projects that I currently work in use Apollo for data fetching. One thing that I hear a lot, and has been going on a lot in my company, is some type of conversation that goes like this. So, what's up, Sara? We got this awesome React project that is all like Apollo and GraphQL, like, do you want to help? And I'm like, yeah, sure, dude, that sounds dope. What do you use for state management? The guy just stares at me dead in the eye. It's always a guy. Just stares me dead in the eye and is like, Redux. And I'm like, why? Why though? Like, just GeekUL all the things. Who in here has used GraphQL in the front end? Raise your hands, please. Cool. Who is using it in production? Production can be your very creepy open source project. It's fine. That still counts. So who's been using? There you go. There you go. That guy has like one of those NPM packages that barely passed the profanity filter. By the way, NPM is a profanity filter. I found that out last week. So GeekUL all the things. Cool. So there's this amazing package called Apollo Link State by the beautiful Apollo team that basically allows you to manage your client state with GraphQL, because why not? And how do you do this? Okay, so first of all, I'm going to go over Apollo Boost before we actually get started. So do you remember this? I have this app called Pasty, which is basically like a copy and paste clipboard manager for macOS. And this was something that was always on Pasty. And if you have to like copy and paste this every single time, it's a problem. The thing is, I can't remember this. I can't even remember the 3 functions that Redux has. And you want me to remember like this whole thing? I'm not going to remember this. I failed math in high school. I'm not properly intelligent. I'm life smart. 2 different things. But now, thank you to Apollo and the beautiful theme, we got this, which actually fits in one line. So Apollo Boost basically integrates the There we go. So the Apollo client, Apollo cache in memory, Apollo link HTTP, and GraphQL tag in one thing. Can we get a round of applause just for this? Like, the rest of the talk is useless. Okay, so that is basically it. Like, this is all you need to do to kickstart your project, and then you just like import React from React, Apollo client, Apollo provider, and then in the new Apollo client, the memory, not the memory, God, the cache and everything is already by default there. It uses like reasonable defaults, kind of like Webpack 4 type of stuff that we're really happy about it, and you can still change it, and then you just pass in your client, and that is done. And I just want to say one thing, that as a woman, when you're a woman and a programmer, you usually have like two idols in your life. You have two people that are just goddesses of like programming in general. You usually have Sara, and if you use Apollo, you have Peggy Raises. She made Apollo Boost, so I'm just like, God bless Peggy Raises. Can we just get a round of applause just for Peggy Raises right now? She'll appreciate it. Or she'll be very mad at me, I'm not quite sure. The Americans are weird. What? Okay, so state. So let's do state management. Okay, cool. Everyone loves state management, right? It's so fun. Yay, okay. So, what's up? So you get the client, and you start a new Apollo client, and you pass in a URI. This URI is if you want to do also, like, get stuff from the internets and put the stuff in your app that then goes into the internets. And you have your client state. So the client state is what you want to manipulate with GraphQL, and that is the thing that you usually use Redux, Morbex, I don't know, there are probably 10 other things that go with React. And then you have your defaults and your resolvers. And you're like, what? I'll get to that, fam. Okay, so defaults, this is your base state. So you have to start with something. Like in life, you have to start with something, and this is where you define the base state of your application. For example, in this case, I'm just going to demonstrate how to create a simple modal that opens and closes like a normal modal does, or a door, anything. And this is what I have as a base state. So I just exported the const of defaults, and I have an object inside of it that's the modal, and we have a thing called modal is open, which is terrible English now that I read it, and that is false. And we also have a type name called modal, because this is to help Apollo differentiate, I don't know. Like, they're different things. Two things are different things, and he sees it from the type name. Okay, just the fact that I don't have a lot of an accent is kind of a miracle. So let's just keep on with that. And in this case, I'm saying like, okay, so this type name is modal. So if you add another thing like a door, the type name is door. Magic. Okay, resolvers. What the resolvers are, like this is where the actual magic happens. So if you use resolvers in the backend with GraphQL, this is basically, so you have a REST endpoint, and you're like, the resolver, what it does is get all the stuff from your REST endpoint, put it in this function, and then what the function does is just returns whatever you want, and just resolves it to something else. And then you can get all the stuff in the front end, which is pretty cool. You can also do it with client state. So, for example, I have a mutation here called open modal. And this receives something that we really don't care about, and then it receives the parameters, and then we get all the data. And from the data, what we really care about is the cache. Because in reality, this is not being stored like in a magical world of front-end. Actually, it kind of is, because it's cache. So this is being stored in a magical world of front-end development called cache. And what we want to do is that we want to write some data to that cache, because we want to change whatever is inside of it. So, for example, we have this data, and then all that I do is just say, okay, so the modal actually is open. And then we say cache.write data, and we pass in the data. We actually don't return anything from this function, and I've been advised that the best way for now is to actually just return null, because then ESLint won't complain. And that's about it. Okay, so this is pretty much all you need to do to have a mutation. And now, you know, like, you get to create the actual mutation in GQL, like the GQL part of the equation. So this is it. So all you do is you import GQL from Apollo Boost, and then you export default, and this mutation, you give it a name so that you can reference it in the Apollo DevTools. And also, Apollo knows what the hell you're doing. It's always good so that Apollo knows what the hell you're doing. And you just call open modal, and that at client, it mainly means that to Apollo, that is like, should I get this from the server? And then you get at client, like, nope. I'm just going to get to the cache right now real quick, and I'm going to get your stuff. And that is all that you need to create a mutation. So it's not that hard, it's not that complicated, and I haven't even gotten to the cool part. So there's a query, and if you remember these resolvers, I didn't hide the query. You literally don't have to write one. Isn't that dope? Because automatically, when you have the data, it creates queries for the the general thing that you already have. So I can just come here and say, like, I get the modal from the client, and I want to get if the modal is open. You can also get the type name if you have other stuff. You can get that other stuff as well, and this is automatically generated. So you don't actually have to define a lot of stuff in your resolvers. Okay, stuff is like, okay, so we made the behind the scenes, but right now we're not actually doing anything. We're just defining state, and that's not cool. That's not the fun part of front-end development, right? Okay, so starting in Apollo 2.1, I think, we have a query component. And the query component is this. And now you're like, what the fuck is this? I'm gonna get to that, okay? So query component now of GraphQL, of React Apollo, it uses the new thing of children props, children data, render props, whatever you want to call it. So what it does is that you create a component called query, and you import from React Apollo, and then you pass it the query you want to do. Like, you can pass it inside, just like GQL, and then pass the query inside, but I'm like, just create another file. It's not that hard. VS Code is nice, or whatever you use. Okay, so, and what this returns is actually, it does some magic behind the scenes where it gets your stuff, and then it just returns the stuff that you actually care about. It returns a function, and that function contains the loading, the errors, and the data. It also contains the cache and everything else. But this is what, for now, what we care about. And what we need to do is check, basically, go in there and be like, is this loading? If this is, the thing about loading is that it will 99% of the times never happen in your client project. If it does, you have a problem in your project. Because that got too big, son. And then you check if there's an error. And if there's an error, just return the error. And if nothing of that happens, you return whatever you want. But this is slightly big, right? Like, this is a lot of code if you want to put this in every query component. And good thing is we're talking about React. So React has the idea of components, and that you can actually make components out of components. So yeah, we can make this a lot smaller. We can create our very own query component because we're smart. Okay, focus. So what you do here, like the thing is, you 99% of the times have the same loading in every single page in your application. If you don't, you need to have a word in your designer, because that's not consistent, like at all. And in here, you basically import the query from React Apollo, and you get the children. The children is what is inside of this component when you actually call it. And you pass in all the props that you get, because you can also pass variables, you can pass a lot of stuff to the query component, so you just pass everything, so you don't have to worry about it. And then you get the loading, the error, and the actual data. And what you do is that you check if it's loading or errored out in here, so that you don't have to do it every single time, because chances are all your error states and all your loadings are going to be the same. So if we do this, and then you return a function of the children, and that passes in the data. So our code now looks something like this, which basically you have the query component that you imported from your own component, and this children.data, what it does is that it wraps the data. It creates a function that actually returns the data in the. Okay, this is what I get for buying 10-pound things. So you do the query, and then you just get the data, which is nice, because you don't have to check if it's loading, you don't have to check if it errored out, you literally just need to get the data. So in the data, I just want the modal, and I want to check if the modal is open. So this is a lot of ES6 deconstruction. I like it. But this is basically out of the data, get the modal, and out of the modal, get modal is open. I don't know, I like looking smart in front of people. So, and then after that, you just return the modal. And I'm using a React modal that has a thing called isOpen, and in there I pass modal is open. That will return me true or false from the query that I made about 10 slides ago. And this actually, like all of this stuff that we're doing, just checking for loadings, checking for errors, showing all the stuff, it fits in one slide. And that is dope, right? But the thing is, we set the modal to be shown as false, so we have no modal. So this is kind of useless. everything that I'm showing you is kind of useless because like you see that you get something, but that thing is false. So you can actually get nothing, right? So let's talk about the mutation component. Okay. So there's a mutation component as well that comes with React Apollo. Just give me a sec. That was good. Okay, ooh, laughed like that. Okay, mutation component. Good. So you get the mutation component from React Apollo, and you also get this open modal that I defined like 20 slides ago, which you just call open modal and add client, and that's it. And in here, you're like, what? This is the function that the mutation receives. So if I go way back on this, I gotta point this side, completely forgot about this. Okay, so if I go here, you see that this is what it actually returns from this mutation. So the function that the mutation returns is actually the function that we get in here. That was actually pretty good timing. It's the function that we get here. And that is about it. There's not a lot of magic that you need to know to go through this. Because it's that simple. Like, you pass in the mutation that you want to do, and in the children, you get the function. Okay, so button on click, open modal. That's it. And you will run the function, and everything will be okay. And, no, I ran this. Okay. So, thing is, you probably still think that this is a lot of code. Because by default, we want to be very smart about our codes. And we like small codes. Code, whatevs. So there's this amazing, beautiful, incredible thing that the Apollo team has made. I'm not trying to get a job, honestly. I like them. The Apollo consumer, and this is something that uses the new React Context API that was also introduced today. And it's useful when you have very simple mutations to the cache. In this case, the cache is just like, put this as true. That is all I need. I don't need to pass huge stuff. So we can do something like this, which is, so you import the Apollo consumer, and that also uses this method of getting children as a function. And from there, you get all of the cache. So all of the things that you have in your cache will be returned from this Apollo consumer. And from there, you can just make really weird code and be like, okay. So when somebody clicks this, what I want to do is I want to write data, and I want the modal is open to be true. That's it. Because the type name is already defined. And this is all that you need to do because you already get the cache, and this is not actually calling any services, any APIs. This is just changing stuff in your cache. And you're like, so where is the mutation that you defined like 10, 20 slides ago? You don't actually need to do it. You don't have to do the mutation, because what the mutation does is tell Apollo where to change the cache. It tells Apollo that, okay, by this mutation and this resolver, I need to change what you just passed me. I need to put it here. But in this case, you're literally telling Apollo, just put this. She's just throwing a ball and be like, okay, so put this ball. That's it. So that actually eliminates a lot of the resolvers for small stuff, and it also eliminates a lot of the mutation GQL stuff. So, but the thing you're asking right now, probably, I don't know, I can't read minds. I wish I could, maybe not now. So, can you make the query and the mutation component into basically only one slide? Sure, Ken. Oh, my beer. Thank you, Ken. Just get my water. Thank you. Cool. I'm going to ask it for it back. Don't drink it. Okay, cool. Okay, so this is one slide. You're going to notice that the text is slightly smaller, but, well. Okay, so we have a const modal, and in here we just say, okay, is the modal open? Get this from the client. And in here we're like, query the modal, and you get the data, and you get the client. The client is basically the cache. Beautiful. So you get the data and you get the client, and when the person clicks on it, you just say, client, write data, modal open equals true, magic. And this opens the modal. And if the modal is open, you just get this from the data and modal open. You can also just deconstruct it from here and put it into here, but for some reason I didn't do it in this slide. But that's the gist of it. So you can actually combine the query component and all of the stuff that you get. Because in this case, we're not actually using the Apollo consumer, we're just using the query component. Because it also receives this. It also receives the cache. And this is all that you need, really, to actually create something that works. And it has like 2 files. Great, no more 4 files. So you get to be twice as much productive, I guess. The thing is, like, the modal doesn't close. And it's kind of annoying. Has anyone ever been to like a website in general? Medium. Medium is getting really annoying on that stuff. Every time you go on Medium, it's just like pop up in your face when you start reading. Okay, so the modal doesn't close. Okay, fine. Okay, I'm gonna fix that. I'm gonna do something about that. Okay, so I created a function called change state. You can call it whatever you want. I mainly created a function because now it fits in one slide as well, because you could do it like there. Okay, continuing. So change state will get the client and the value, and you will literally change the client to data modal open and whatever you pass in it. Cool. And then you have a query that will get the modal that we defined up at the top here. That is not defined here because it didn't fit in the slide. And then you get data and the client from it, and when you click on it, you just change the state of the modal open to be true. And for the modal, you basically tell it on request close. This is something from React modal. Just change it to false. You can also get all of this from the client, and this thing right here is just like not what is inside of this, basically. So data modal open is equal to not client.data.modal. You know what I mean. Cool. So this is like the thing about this talk and the thing about this topic is that it's not that huge of a thing. Like, you don't have to do a lot to get the basics of a state management library working in your app. I would, if you don't use Apollo, I would say to just stick with the thing that you have. If you use Apollo, you're already very, very accustomed to writing queries and writing mutations and writing all of that cute stuff. And this is a really good escape hatch. Like, I used to use Redux in a project that I'm in. And now the new projects are all using this because we all use Apollo for getting stuff from the server. So it just makes sense. Cool. So I have a demo of this, which if you want to see a modal opening, be my guest. That's all that it does. It you literally click a button and a modal open. It does have some CSS though. I think I had tachyons on it. If you want to see a demo of this, be my guest. The way that I actually learned most of this stuff was with this demo. This uses the Figma API to render like the files in a project and stuff. We're using GraphQL. So there's a GraphQL thing for the Figma API that I just get the the internet is complicated now. Okay. Remember jQuery? That was dope. And this basically gets all of those files. It has mutations. It has everything that you could ever want and need. It also shows the comments and has mutations to the GraphQL API. And that's about it, because there's not a lot more to say about this thing. I honestly believe that this is, if you're using Apollo, this is the way to go. It's that simple. If you just use it for 2 or 3 days, you will get the hang of it. Like, it may look weird in the beginning, mainly the fact that you're just putting functions inside of a thing, then the component that is actually a function, and then you're just like sitting there and being like, what have I done with my life? I could be working for McDonald's and I'm doing this. But you get used to it, and by the end of like the first 2 days, you're just like, this is amazing. This is amazeballs. Okay, that's all that I have. So thank you so much. And all of the slides are in link state is dope that now that SH. And God bless site. That's it. Yeah, my water. Thank you, Ken. God bless you, man.
Yes, thank you, Sara.
What?